Hey everybody, this is Heidi Gusted with another knitting video tutorial for you. In this video, I'm going to walk you through how to work some of the color work in one of my own designs from the latest issue of I Like Knitting magazine. This Southwest-inspired Afghan is worked with a combination of intarsia, stranded colorwork, and linen stitch, and incorporates a cute chain edge throughout so that you can have a nice squared off edge to this bulky Afghan that is going to become a staple in your living room. Let's get started. Throughout this Afghan, you'll notice elements of stranded colorwork and intarsia, particularly in the middle sections of the piece. What I'm going to show you how to do today is work one of the triangle sections that you can see here and here in this Afghan. What's nice about these is that in the design I use as high contrast of color choices as you can get, black and white. And for demonstration's sake here, I'm gonna stick with the same high contrast color palette using a cream and a purple. So let's take a quick look at the anatomy of this swatch. So right here, this swatch looks exactly like the chart featured in the pattern. It's 12 stitches across and it features a chained edge where when you're using the dark color on the background of the white, I incorporated a couple knit stitches at each end, making the chain edge alternate colors just for a little bit of help with the tension of the color work, because even me, a knitting professional, always has to keep my tension in check when I'm doing stranded color work, and incorporating those knit stitches on the end really helps balance out the stranded color work in this motif. So let's get started. On my needles here, I have 12 stitches cast on in my lighter color. So I've done the 12 stitches and worked one wrong side row. Now we're on the right side where our chart begins. So we're going to start with slipping one stitch with our yarn in front, and that forms our chain edge that is featured throughout the entirety of this Afghan. Next, we're going to knit one, and that brings us to the point where we're at the repeating stitch section in this triangle motif that repeats across. So what we're going to do next is slip one with a stitch with our yarn in front, knit one, slip one stitch with our yarn in front, knit one, and slip one more stitch with our yarn in front. Now we're going to form the bottom left of our triangle. So we're going to knit one stitch, but using our darker color, in this case purple. So I'm going to knit one like so, and then keeping the purple yarn on top of the white, because when you're doing that stranded color work, you need to make sure to carry your colors on the back with always assigning one color to be on top and one color to be on bottom, just so the back of your work looks as neat as possible. So what we're going to do is grab our lighter color yarn, bring it to the front, and finish out the row with slip one, knit one, slip one, and then we'll add, bringing the working purple yarn over the top, we'll finish with one knit stitch to form that beautiful edging, or at least the start of it. Now we'll turn to the wrong side of our work and get all combobulated here. And what we're going to do is begin, like we do every row, with slipping one stitch with our yarn in front. In this case, it's that purple stitch. But instead of bringing the purple to the front, we're going to need to bring our white strand to the front. And now we're going to slip one with our yarn in back, bring the yarn towards us to purl, slip another stitch with the yarn in back, and then what we're going to do is grab our purple yarn, bring it over the top to the front of our work, and slip a stitch, then purl a stitch. So we've got 2 stitches for our triangle now. Bringing that to the back, we will pick up our white yarn, slip one with yarn in front, purl one, slip one with yarn in front, purl one. And if you're wanting to carry your purple yarn in between triangles, just carefully wrap that and catch it under your lighter color yarn. Purl one, slip one with yarn in front, bring the purple yarn to the front, and knit one. So now we've done our first set of rows with purple yarn in that chain edge. Looking at the right side of our work and comparing it to our swatch, we're right on track. So when I was designing this motif, the thing that was the hardest from a design perspective was where to place slipped stitches versus introducing new colors to get a hard edge shape like a triangle or the diamond featured in the center of this without stray slip stitches kind of fuzzing out the outline of the shape. So if you look at both of the triangle motifs, you'll notice that the bottom right of this triangle is all formed with knit stitches instead of slip stitches, and it's finished with slip stitches instead of knit stitches, if that makes sense. You can also follow the pattern and not get into the minutia of how I designed it, but I've heard from people that they find it interesting to know where the logic came into the design process, so that's just a little tidbit for you right there. So moving on to the next row, we're gonna start with our usual slip one with yarn in front, bring that yarn to the back. And now we're back on color white, and we'll knit one, slip one with yarn in front, knit one, slip one with yarn in front, and we will switch to the darker color, bringing it over the white working yarn, and we will knit one, slip one with yarn in front, knit one, switching back to the lighter color, slip one with yarn in front, knit one, slip one with yarn in front. And on this row, we are ending with a white knit one. And so we're alternating the purple and white just for that extra attractive braided edge. Next row is a wrong side row again. And you'll have to forgive my tension on this demonstration swatch a little. The finished Afghan and this swatch look much better because I am not talking while knitting, which is always a little bit of a challenge. So I guess that's my big pro tip on this video is don't talk so much while knitting stranded color work. At any rate though, we're on a wrong side row, so we're gonna start with slip one with yarn in front, purl one, slip one with yarn in back, purl one, and now we switch to our purple yarn. Bringing that to the front, we slip it with yarn in front, purl one, slip one with yarn in front, purl one, and then switching to our light color once again. We slip, purl, slip, knit. So by now you probably have the hang of how to work this triangle. Really, the key elements are not talking while knitting, paying attention to where you're carrying your colors and the tension, so that as you keep working on this motif, you can see the hard lines form without any buckling of your work from the tension being too tight or too loose. So as you can see, there's a few idiosyncrasies with working stranded color work and the linen stitch at the same time, but the finished result has a really beautiful woven effect inspired by those Southwestern iconic blankets that you see around. So if we take a quick glance before we go at the back of this Afghan, you can see what I mean by wanting to place your the stranded color work evenly in your work. So you can see that the negative image of each of those dark triangles you can see in this white stranding throughout the back of the piece. And then looking at the front, you get these geometric, visually impactful triangles that add just a little bit of extra challenge, texture, and a fun piece to look at and use throughout the year in your living room.